Hello everyone, I am David from Expensify. We do expense reports that don't suck. It's a bold vision, but we're improving the world one expense report at a time, that's right. So I wasn't really sure exactly what to talk about, and so I created a very flexible deck which consists of this exact slide, and that is the entire thing. So, a little known fact about Expensify is actually, so my background, I've been a programmer since I was 6, started computer graphics, video games, virtual reality. I went to the University of Michigan, worked in virtual reality lab. Then I worked in the game industry in Texas for a while, did like voice over IP, peer-to-peer, sort of, screen sharing, file sharing. I was actually in Portland when I was hired by a guy named Travis Kalanick into his last company called Red Swoosh doing peer-to-peer file content distribution. So it's an unlikely background for an expense report magnate like I am today. But I would say, but the funny thing is, I started my entrepreneurial world actually here in Portland. And I was very excited. I was here about, I would say like 15 years ago or something like this. So I was living up in Alberta. And then I went down to Silicon Valley for a while, and I finally came back and I just bought a house back in Alberta, like a block away from where I lived. It was like amazing. And so it feels very good to be back in Portland because I've always loved this town. And I think that going to Silicon Valley just felt like a necessity, but kind of a chore, if you will. And I think it's great to be back in a place where you can really have the benefits of actually working with people who are caring about building a real product and building a real business. So I would say in Silicon Valley, there's kind of like two business models. There is build a viable business, you care about profitability and things like this, or there's sell to a bigger sucker. And I think actually the latter is by far the more successful and common of the two. But I would say for those of us in the first camp, it's exciting to be back in a town that kind of prioritizes that. And so we recently opened an office here in downtown San Francisco, or downtown Portland. Excuse me. Yeah, no, Give that a shot. But anyway, so we're very happy to be back in Portland, as I was saying. And so I would say when we came back to Portland, a lot of our most senior people actually came because the company's been around for about 10 years. And so I realized, a few years back, I have a daughter and a dog and a wife, and I'm like, look, I want a backyard. I want to actually live some sort of a lifestyle. I'm just never going to get that in Portland. And when I on fire tonight. Thank you. That's exactly where I was going with that. There we go. Moving on. And so anyway, I realized, I'm like, look, I never get the lifestyle I want in San Francisco. Thank you so much. And so I went around to my company and said, like, who all agrees with me? And eventually I said, like, hey guys, I'm moving to Portland. Anyone who wants to come is welcome to come with me. Otherwise, you can stay here. I would say about a third of the company came. And since then, actually, we've hired a ton of people here in Portland as well. And so we've got this giant bank just a few blocks away. And so I encourage all of you to come by and check it out. Great. Anyway, so what I'm here to talk about actually is, and the reason I with all that preamble, some of our most senior engineers have come along onto this Portland journey. And I'd say one of the technologies that we're working on is one of our most core technologies built over the course of the past decade. This is our core database layer called Bedrock. And so I'd say, now I know databases are kind of hard to demo on screen, but really quickly, has anyone here heard of SQLite by chance? Mm-hmm. Okay, good, because it's by far the most commonly deployed database in the entire universe. And that basically it's on every one of your phones and every one of your web browsers, the most common thing ever. Expensify is powered entirely by SQLite, which sounds crazy. No one thinks it's even possible. That basically everyone thinks it has to be, Mongo or Oracle or MySQL or some crazy bullshit, whatever it is. It's like, no. You can actually do very, very simple things. You can do powerful things with simple technology. And so Bedrock is basically our database layer, a replication layer that we've built on top of SQLite. We're sponsors of the SQLite organization. They're amazing people there, by the way. And so Bedrock, I would encourage you to check it out in the sense that when we started, because we started talking about the idea of financial technology, sort of fintech. And so when I started the company, I very early recognized that if you're moving, like we move billions and billions of dollars through our financial networks. And so when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you don't accidentally do it twice, because 2 billion is a lot bigger than 1 billion. And so as a result, distributed transactions are kind of a big deal. And if you're doing distributed transactions, I would say, the idea of operating out of a single database, or a single sort of like data center is actually just really irresponsible anymore. I mean, you can light up data centers all over the world, like why shouldn't you? And the reason that people don't is because it's really freaking hard using normal technology. And so when we started, we actually initially recognized, like, look, I can't just have one data center, I have to have two at least. But then there's the saying, a person that has one watch always knows the time, whereas a person that has two watches never knows the time. I think it's the same thing in the sense that you can never just have one database, because then if you have two, then both of them, if they lose connectivity to each other, they might think that they're in charge and actually have two sort of split brain sort of problems. And so you always have to have at least 3 data centers, I would say. It's just that 2 of them can agree and recognize that they're in charge. And so Expensify from the very earliest days is built around this concept of 3 data centers. And so that's actually quite hard to do. Like we started before MySQL even had distributed transactions. And even now they're not that great. And so Bedrock is built to solve that problem. Distributed transactions at scale in a completely automatic failover environment, such that basically all 3 nodes, or in our case we usually operate 6, all 6 nodes come up. They will elect sort of a master. All the non-mastering nodes will sort of begin subscribing to a feed of transactions, and then basically the non-master nodes will escalate those transactions to the master. Master will commit all sort of rights centrally and do a quorum transaction, or there's a whole bunch of research that goes into this. It's not just quorum transactions. There's like, you can specify the level of sort of concurrency and atomicity you need on a per transaction basis. And then all of the reads happen locally from each of the nodes. So anyway, I'm throwing a lot of sort of buzzwords out to you, and I apologize for that. I encourage you to check out bedrockdb.com. We've recently open sourced the entire thing. As I mentioned, it powers all of Expensify. So, our most important and sensitive operations all operate on this, and so I'd encourage you to give it a shot. And that's basically all I want to talk about. Oh, and maybe one last point, it's being built here in Portland. And I would say the core team that operates on this is actually operating out of Portland. We have teams San Francisco, Portland, Melbourne, London, Michigan, and then a bunch of floaters all over the world. But really, I would say the heart of our most advanced engineering team is really here in Portland. And so if you care about advanced engineering, if you care about database technology, I didn't even get into our whole concierge AI system, which is built on top of this system as well. That's also primarily built out of here in Portland as well. So if you care about building cool, hard technologies to process billions of dollars of real money, I would love to talk with you. And so very quickly, Alex, can you please stand up? Yes, that's right. That's the woman you want to talk to right there. If you're looking for a job, she is the one that can help you out. And so that's all I wanted to say. Does anyone have any questions at all about the world of expense management? Thank you back there.
Saying here for Bedrock Technology is asset compliant?
Question is the Bedrock technology asset compliant? Yes, it is. And I would say on a per transaction basis, you can specify, for example, if you want full quorum, and it'll make sure that a majority of the basically the cluster will approve the transaction for the 2-phase commit. Or you can specify like, no, I just want one, like at least one server to approve it. Like that's pretty good. Or you can say like, live life on the edge and be fully asynchronous and actually just commit as fast as I can. And then I think that a good technique as well is you can specify how far ahead of the cluster are we going to allow the master to get. And you say like, I'll take up to 500 transactions or something like this. And so you can dial in the level of sort of concurrence or sort of atomicity that you want. Because I think it's very important for scalability. Likewise, people who think about SQLite, they're like, no, there's no way it can possibly be fast enough. But like, actually, SQLite is an amazing database. It has full write concurrency, and it's a little known fact. Little known because most people don't have access to, or everyone has access to the private branch, but no one knows about it. It actually has full multi-threaded write capabilities with page locking as well. And so I'd say we get something like 95 or 99% worker offload, meaning that most of our threads actually are able to write in parallel to the main thread. And so it's something that people don't realize SQLite can do. It has full JSON support. It has the most foreign key constraints. It's every feature you could possibly want and a bajillion that you would never want as well. So anything database you want, check it out. Any other questions about Bedrock? There we go.
So 2 parts. What is like next for Expensify?
Okay, wow, what is next for Expensify? The world. But no, I would say more of the same. So Expensify, so we've got millions of users. We're the most widely deployed expense reporting application on the planet. We have more customers than like the next 5 competitors combined. And I would say our sort of claim to fame, if you will, is that we not only support some of the largest companies out there, like Yahoo, Lyft, Uber, and things like this, but also we worked on the smallest companies. So we have a huge range of just millions of individual sole proprietors and things like this. And so we view expense management as the world's second oldest business model. And so I would say it affects everyone in the world, everyone in the industry, every business on the planet, in every single language. And so as a result, we think there's a huge opportunity out there, and we want to get it on.
Okay. And then what is your day-to-day? You clearly know a lot about databases.
So what is my day-to-day? So as CEO and founder of Expensify, I do a little bit of everything. I'm certainly involved in database technology as one of the original and sort of primary authors. I spend what coding I do today is primarily on the AI technology, but certainly business model, marketing, a little smatter of everything. And so going back to, there was somebody here, you're talking about you were looking for a CEO. I'm just going to turn this off if you don't mind. I would discourage you from getting a different CEO. You're the best. You're the best for your business out there. It is not that hard. If you can program, you can do all the rest of it. It is so much easier than that. So I'm all done. Thank you so much.